And the
podcast
begins with a song of rebellion.
How can this
podcast
be my life?
CD Burners.
Hello, everybody.
Are we recording?
Yeah, I think we're good. Is that one on?
That one looks on.
Guys, we're back.
It's been a long time since we recorded a pod.
And now we're recording a podcast.
We're doing two in it. Welcome to Call Her Daddy.
My name is Alex Cooper.
My name is Call Her. I never listened to that podcast. I tried to listen to it one time, and it was literally half ads.
I listened to it a long time ago because I went to high school with the other girl who's not Alex Cooper before she got kicked off. Her name is Sophia.
She got kicked off.
They had a very public falling out there.
Why did she get kicked off?
They just had a disagreement about money.
Oh, really?
And when it was like, time to renew their contract with Barstool, Vape's right there if that's what you're looking for.
That's what I need.
I could tell. He had the itch.
I have it. I've got the thing.
It's been a long time since we did one of these. It's been like over a month, I want to say. Yeah, because January 22nd as of this recording, and the last pod we did was like right after Emo Night Day, like December 10th with Kevin.
Yeah, and the thing is,
got sick.
I got sick.
Then we were on vacation, and
I legitimately got sick. Though is the thing. It was, and then everybody got sick.
Yeah,
like everybody like kind of felt what I felt, and I was like, oh fuck, dude, I never I'll push through shit and do it. I was planning on doing it, but I was like really sick, and then everybody kind of got that. Fucking sickness.
Yeah, I got sick after we did the last Emo Night Day too, because it's just like so much stress leading up to it, and then it happens, and then your body's like, okay, I can finally relax, and then you get fucking hit.
So I did all of the research to this a month ago.
Me too.
And I had to go refresh it, and I can see in my notes where I started getting fucking sick.
You can read like, oh, I started to fall off.
I was
here.
like, what the fuck did I just say? Like, this is not like a sentence.
Yeah, boy. Well, I think this is going to be a good episode, guys. Today we're talking about Paramore Riot. It is the second album from Paramore. Came out on June 12th, 2007 on Fueled by Ramen. It did really, really well on the charts. Number 2 on the top alternative albums of Billboard. Number 4 on Billboard Top Rock. Triple platinum as of 2021. That's crazy.
It was also shocking because it was like one of, like Pitchfork's dumbass, like gave it a good review.
Did they originally?
Yeah, it was like an 8.
Well, I think that you might have found an article that they wrote in like 2021.
Really? Did they do
they did a whole thing where they go back and they redo it. I don't think that I really doubt that Pitchfork even reviewed it at the time.
Yeah, it was like one of the only, that might have been it, because it was like when I was looking at the things, I was like, it's like one of the only reviews that gave it above a certain thing. And I was like, Pitchfork?
Yeah. No, it's the retrospective, like archive Pitchfork, where they go back and revisit stuff. But that was an interesting read for sure, because it really kind of dove into the importance of this album and how much this album and this woman in particular shifted the scene. Hayley Williams, one of the most iconic front men of all time.
Gotta tell you, I felt insane like researching this, because there was so much like, she's dating this guy, and like there's this turmoil. It's like, and this song is about like this boyfriend, and I was like, I'm an adult guy, and I'm like trying to keep up with like band gossip, and like when they were like 14.
Yeah, they were super young. They were young kids. This lineup in particular, like they all met in middle school. It was Hayley Williams and the Farrow brothers, and I think Hayley played in a funk cover band with another guy named Jeremy Davis. And so the four of them joined forces and created this band. I believe, they just really had something special, because this is a fucking banger.
I saw like there's a couple of fucking people that go over like the history of it, and there was one dude that was like, and Josh was 12 or Zach was 12 when they started playing. He started playing drums. I was like, and then one was like, he was 14. And I think it was like they were 14. Sounds like the right thing. He should still be 14.
Yeah, there was a lot of internal turmoil.
They should get a 14-year-old drummer again.
Young kids, young 14-year-olds, and they were dealing with a lot, you know? I think a lot of it came from the way that the band was structured legally. I was reading a lot about this. Atlantic really only wanted to sign Hayley, and they wanted to make her into like a pop superstar, like a Avril. She was not down because Paramore was a band. In her eyes, Paramore has always been a band. In like the band's eyes, Paramore is supposed to be a band. But the way that their business was set up was always Hayley was the only one signed, and the rest of you guys are like hired band members. So there's a lot of like tension that creates. Like when the legal structure of your business doesn't match what is happening or how like
you feel.
Yeah, you feel, people are going to feel slighted. And, you know, they ended up like suing each other, and people left for different reasons and fighting over song credits. And, you know, there has been quite a bit of drama.
Yeah, it was absolutely difficult for me to like keep up with the amount of times all of that happened, and with who left and who came back, and who was on an album, then was gone, and then came back. And that was like, I was fucking, holy shit, Jesus Christ. But then again, at the same time, I was like, oh yeah, they started this when they were 14.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, that makes sense, because you don't know anything when you're 14. You know, you don't know literally anything.
Nothing.
So
especially when you're like from small town Tennessee, and you're like from a Christian family, and, you know, like there's a lot of like religious themes on here. I don't know, man.
It doesn't like strike me as odd in any way that there was a lot of that, because you get tossed into it. And also, you know, to talk about Hayley, like, you know, she, to be perceived by the media, why I think it was a gift and a curse, right? To be a really talented front woman that was like, no, I'm in like a band. And then the media try and spins this thing that you don't want, but it also pushed in front of the eyes of people that probably wouldn't have normally given it a chance. Cause there were a lot of great bands during this era that might like, you know, probably got skipped over because Paramore was so at the top of everybody, the forefront of everybody's mind. But then there was like another edge of that where it's, you know, people that didn't really know, they were like, oh, the band with the girl singer.
Right. And they almost dare you to like categorize them just as the band with the girl singer. But then you start to realize like, oh shit, like she is an incredible vocalist. The rest of the band, absolutely amazing musicians. And she's like cool and fun and stylish and funny. And like, you feel like you want to hang out with her. Like she's super endearing. And then she has the chops to back it up.
I found the rest of the band to be incredibly endearing as well. Like I watched that 40 Days of Riot where they were doing it. And it's so fucking funny because it's literally like they spend like a whole 3 days being like, how are we going to do this intro?
Oh yeah.
Like, how are we going to do this intro? Yeah. And like, there's no drugs. There's no like drinking. It's just
Cocoa Pebbles.
It's this like them eating cereal and then being like, hey, Lee's late. And it's cute and fun and endearing. And I was like, dude, just pick a fucking intro to the thing. And then when they finally did it, I was like, oh, that's good that you spent that long and had the foresight to actually spend the time to do it. Cause like you could tell when they first went out on stage, I was like, you guys did a really good job of picking that thing. But it was just so funny it's just like so wholesome, just cereal and sitting. And then they're like, and then we go to this one city and we like this restaurant. Just not my experience. You know what I mean? Just like
being wholesome teens, just not what you did.
It's just not my experience. And so I really liked watching that. You know, nobody's going to jail. Like nobody's like
it's just teen angst.
It really, and it was. And I think that I think it shows in you can hear that stuff in the music without it being told that you're supposed to be hearing that stuff. And that's like, you know, in my in my opinion, like what makes a band great is if they're being real, it comes out in how if you're just putting together a band to be like, we're going to be a famous band, this normally don't last very long. And you can, there's something sonically that you can hear with that.
Yeah.
So I think that this was a really, it was nice to watch because I don't know, wasn't really my fucking thing, for like a lot of reasons.
It was definitely a reckoning for the scene, I think, when Hayley came on. Most of the bands were all just male-dominated bands. Most of the lyrics were very misogynistic. They're about girls who, like, broke their hearts. And Hayley flipped that, and it was just undeniable. She was just like, we're not just fangirls here to support you boys doing the thing on stage. I'm going to be on stage, and I'm going to fucking rock way harder than all of you.
It was interesting to watch like the progression of the band and her as a person, because I think there was like a lot of probably internal struggle with like her being like, I am a girl, but I also am one of the guys, and like how do I present myself? And then when you're fucking like flung into the media and the public eye, how you present yourself and how people want to present you, and also being fucking so young, there's gotta just be like such an internal struggle of like, how do I stay true to myself, but also do the right thing?
Yeah.
And I think that, over time, I do like, cause they stopped playing Misery Business for a while because she was like, this is these lyrics, and then came back and was like, well, that's just the natural progression of like learning and becoming an adult and looking back on shit. And I think that, it's interesting. We don't normally see the progression of people from like really, really, really young kids to where they are now, like their entire thing, at least in this world. You do see it in a lot of like Disney stars and shit, but like not here.
Well, she recently made a statement about Misery Business.
I also can't fucking hear that song without thinking of the remix that we play.
Oh yeah, the Riot one where it's like, fuck. I say it every time.
Impossible to hear that song. Good.
I guess just recently, Rolling Stone named Riot as one of the 250 greatest albums of the 21st century so far. And then Hayley posted on her Instagram story, and she said, "The real heads know Riot is our worst album. We just wouldn't have ever done much else without it. Brand New Eyes was actually more influential. S/T had more commercial success. Self-titled had more commercial success. After Laughter was maybe the most critically acclaimed, but again, no one would have even cared if not for Riot's lil hoe ass. Gotta love her."
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of bands that feel like that about their albums that broke them. We've talked to so many other bands that feel the same way, that are like, dude, this is not the best album that we've done.
Yeah.
But thank God we did it.
Right.
And look, I do really like, though, in a lot of the lyrics here, she is a real one. She was like, she like legitimately references Refused in some of the lyrics. And like, that's a cool thing for a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah, she loves Me Without You. She loves, I know that Jim Adkins said that like when the two of them were on tour together, all she wanted to talk to him about was the time that he spent touring with Mineral, and just like asking him questions about Mineral and like emo lore. Like she really liked that stuff.
It's really cool. I knew that to an extent because I've seen her wear some shirts where I was like, that's a good band, but I didn't know like how deep she was, and if it was just being around it, that she's like, this is somebody's fucking, like, I toured with this band and I'm not really into it, but like really she's about that life. And I think that is really, it's just hard to like speak from experience because I was just like, I wasn't a young girl during that time. So I can imagine being a girl at that time being like, I wish there was somebody for me. And then she comes along, is got to be like, so many girls were like, thank God. This is totally like my fucking.
I mean, let's talk a little bit about how this album like was rolled out too, right? Or at least like the progression of this band. I guess with the first album, they didn't work it at radio at all. And, you know, it was Atlantic, but Atlantic was like, we don't want to, John Janik was like, I don't want to put Atlantic on here. Let's go Fueled by Ramen. At that point, Fueled by was a full imprint under Atlantic. So he had the foresight to be like, I know that people are going to be looking at this extra critically because it's like a girl in rock music and they're going to think, oh, we manufactured this. So let's let the first album do its thing authentically. Let's put that Fueled by Ramen label on it to give it some cred. And then by the time that second album comes out, they come out with the first single, Misery Business, and it hits top 40 radio. And at that point, it was like an undeniable thing. Like they had the cred. They were in the scene. They were doing Warped Tour already. And then they come back. They're fully headlining Warped Tour, and Paramore just exploded. And that was like, that's what this album is. I love the strategy behind
yeah,
like,
that's awesome.
Like being able to be a really smart like A&R person or label person and look at it like from a 5,000 foot view. It's so much easier to talk about it in the rear view than it is like, even, you know, we talk about and strategize about Emo and I all the time and like our next career moves, but it's hard to do.
And it's like, and honestly, like to, you know, imagine like being in a meeting when you have like a ton of people around being like, we have to make this the biggest thing. We have to make this the biggest thing. And then you're there being like, understanding how like the real audience and who is going to perceive them and who you want to after this comes out, and to be like, hey, let's tone it down a little bit and then actually follow through. And that's the thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be like so validating.
Totally. And
like
that's why he's like, you know, in the position he's in now, like the full president of Atlantic, and like Atlantic is killing it still with so many artists. Like,
yeah, that it's awesome. That's like a fucking really, I think that's probably, there could be a whole class on that thing in like specifically, because it's such a, you know, important way to look at music and culture as a whole, as opposed to, we just have to make this the next big thing.
Yeah. Well, there's an interesting story too that I came across where, you know, they wanted this to be as big as possible, right? So they go and they sit down with Leor Cohen, and at that point he, I think, was the president of Warner's, and they wanted to like upstream everything. So that was, you know, that was the goal, to like try and get upstream to the bigger labels. And I guess Leor had huge hits at the time with Nickelback, Chad Kroeger. And so Leor calls Chad Kroeger up and he's like, hey, I got this great band, Paramore. I want you to write them a hit. Write them a hit song. That song gets taken back to the band. They give it to David Bendeth, the producer of this album, and he takes it to the band. He takes him the demo, which has like a girl singer on it and everything. David Bendeth, he's like, it was actually pretty good. It's kind of a good song.
The Nickelback song?
Yeah.
The one that the dude from Nickelback wrote?
Yeah. And so he sits him down. He's like, hey guys, like the label has this song they want you to do. Well, what do you think about it? And Hayley just was like, nope. And started like crying and was like, fuck you, and left the room and locked herself in her like little area at David's studio and didn't come out for a long time. And so Bendeth was like, I guess we're not doing it. And then like looking back now, like when he talks about it, he's like, I think it was a pretty good song. I think it would have been a good Paramore song, but like we never will get to that. We never got to that point
where they needed somebody else to write the songs for them.
Well, I think it speaks to Hayley's desire to be authentic. And in that is the through line for her at this point in her career, and always fighting for Paramore to be a band and for her to be taken seriously and for her to be perceived as like an authentic rock and roll musician who writes their own fucking hits. You know, she never wanted to be the manufactured pop star. Even if the song was good, she was just pissed that they gave it to her. You know, that she was like, why are you doing this to me? This is my project.
I think that rocks. Yeah. I really do. All it took for me, because I didn't know too much about this album. Like I just didn't. I knew some of the things about this and the band, but I didn't know too much. And all it took for me was reading something where she put a refused, like a nod to refused. And I was like, all right, this is awesome. Like this is great.
Well,
It takes a lot more, and I was like, oh, this is a real person. And also, the fact that they just always wanted to write their own songs and not bring in writers, I think is, those two things for me solidify cred, where I'm like, you're awesome.
Well,
that's all it took.
I think, they had you in mind too when they were touring Riot, because on the set list for the tour, they included a 6-minute Sunny Day Real Estate song that they were covering.
Did everybody was everybody bummed out?
Yeah.
I bet.
But they kept it in the set because they
so
wanted
cool
to show that they had depth as musicians.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of stuff about them that I really, really, really do like. And I can't imagine like being that young and then still navigating through this. It terrifies me to think about if I was to be put in that position. And, I think for as much turmoil as they've gone through, they've all handled it as well as possible and came out where they're at right now, which is, I do think that they're taking I don't know. I never was in this conversation of not taking them seriously as musicians. So
Sure.
I have to look at it from a different
You
perspective.
have to almost like put yourself back in 2007 and like look at the scene as a whole and realize how male dominated, like white male dominated it truly was. It like wasn't a friendly place for girls.
Which is a perfect website or a perfect podcast for us to be talking about it.
Two white guys talking about it.
Yeah, it's like it's like the most perfect thing. I really like also on that thing. It's just like they give. It's so I keep going back to like how wholesome they are. They like give you so much youth group.
Yes.
I like really like it.
Joni wrote, "There are light religious themes all over this album. All the members were raised in the church and all of them thanked Jesus in the CD booklet. The lyrics aren't preachy and never directly mention religion, but there are themes of faith and salvation. For example, that song Hallelujah, like that is, Hayley said that's like the band's anthem. She faced criticism, I guess, for taking the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah,
On Misery Business, where she said,
up.
yeah.
It's just like shut the fuck
Well,
up.
and that's also why
everybody,
that's quote unquote why the Farrow brothers left Paramore later, a few years later. They were like, we don't like Hayley's lyrics because they go against God.
Okay. All right. I didn't know how much of a role the internet played in the making of this.
Oh,
album.
really?
I didn't know. No, dude, I didn't.
Tell me about it. I don't know. Tell me about it.
That there was like a contest on YouTube for the backup vocals for Born for This.
Yes, let's come back to this part.
All right.
But
then Misery Business came from a message she posted on live. Those I just like.
Right. Say that. Expound on that. The live journal thing.
I mean, that's all I put in here. I figured that you would be smarter and know more about that stuff, but I just didn't. It was like a thing I didn't know, like how much the internet played a role into it.
I guess David Bendeth said that Hayley found like a little corner. It was like a loft. It was almost like a storage area in the studio. And she kind of took over that space as her own. And she would go in there and like write lyrics and poetry and stories and stuff like that. And then when she wasn't in that loft area, she was just hanging out in the lounge and she would post some of those things like anonymously online. She would post her drawings and her stories and she would just post it anonymously and like get people's feedback. And I thought that was super interesting. And like you touched on, she had a live journal at the time, and I guess it was sort of like a confession time on live journal, and people could write in and post things that they were ashamed of. And she loved the honesty and the way that people were just looking for like a place to release their inner secrets. And that inspired her to write Misery Business.
Follow this gay dude on Instagram that does these like anonymous things that he asks his followers all the time. And it's Like, I don't think that like I consistently open something up and laugh out
Like
loud.
what?
I'll have to go back and look, but it's the anonymity of people telling secrets online, especially with his audience. Like it literally reads like a fucking comedy special. Like it's so fucking funny. We know somebody that was on this, right?
Yeah. So let's jump back to that part of it. They did have a contest for fans to have a moment in the studio where they could record guest vocals.
Forgot this guy was here.
Where they could record guest vocals with the band and be featured on the album. So I'm reading the Wikipedia. I'm reading about this contest that they had, and I'm like, wait, I know that name, and it's this woman named Mary Bonney, and it had her hometown listed on Wikipedia. I think she's from somewhere in Virginia. And so I went to her Facebook and I looked and I saw that it says hometown and it matched up. And I was like, we know her. She used to come to emo night. Like she was one of our diehards, like year one. She was always there in front row, super nice person. Love Mary. So I reached out to her and I asked her if she could send us a voice memo telling us about her time in the studio with Paramore. She sent it before Christmas. I did not open it.
You haven't opened it.
I just thought we could listen to it.
Oh, that's awesome.
On the podcast.
That's a good idea. Good job. Smart. That's good. That's really fun.
My name is Mary Bonney, and I won Paramore's Last Song You'll Ever Sing contest in 2007. I got to sing backup vocals on the song Born for This on the album Riot, which launched them to total fame. It was one of the best days of my life. It still is. It's always my fun fact when I'm meeting people. I went to House of Loud recording studio in New Jersey in March and completely fangirling out, meeting Hayley and some of the members that aren't in the band anymore, like Jeremy and Josh, and then Zach. I think that was everyone that's there. And the song wasn't ready for us to record. It was me and some runner-ups, so Paramore had to make chit chat with us, and we were so awkward because we couldn't believe we were meeting them, much less spending time with them. So they played some songs. I remember we were singing like Panic at the Disco covers to like quote unquote warm up. And then Hayley taught us the vocals, and hearing her sing a cappella as reference to what we were going to be singing was just surreal. She's, so small and her voice is so incredible. And so it was myself, my sister, and members of Paramore, and then some of the runner-ups, and we got to sing these gang vocals. It was so special. And then after that, they signed everything we owned and called all of our friends. You know that thing you do when you meet someone really exciting. We recorded a little like webisode thing for their fans where they introduced me. They cooked out on a grill for us, and we had dinner before we left. I mean, it was such a cool experience. It was very much like, don't meet your heroes. It's like meet your heroes, because they were great. And then that summer, I got to stand side stage at Warped Tour, whose dream is not that. And then they would shout me out from shows, smaller venue shows throughout the year. But now they're huge, and I'm so happy for them, and so cool to be part of that story. And it was just a really special day, and they were everything I'd hoped, and it's awesome.
Kick my ass off of this podcast and get Mary on here. She's really good at that.
Yeah, she nailed that. Yeah, that was great.
That was really, really good.
How cool. Can you imagine? That'd be so sick.
I mean, that's fucking awesome. I wonder why don't everybody loves a cookout?
Yeah.
Like everybody, like Kevin loves a cookout.
Yeah.
Everybody like loves a goddamn cookout. That was the song that was the Refused song. Like where she says, I have to think of the Refused song in order to remember it. But that was the song.
Yeah, Mary Bonney.
That's really cool. I really like Mary Bonney. She was so sweet.
Yeah, she is also a tour guide at Universal Studios.
Really?
I remember that. She used to drive the bus.
Like when
I don't know if she drove it, but she would speak.
Like when you go to through Jaws and they do
she did that.
That's awesome. She did the backlot tour?
Yeah. She definitely like hooked me up with some tickets.
That's
once.
really, really, that's awesome. Yeah. There was a lot of there was some criticism about the lyrics on this album, and it was from fucking dumbasses where they were like, sounds like it was written by a kid.
Yeah, it was.
It was written by a kid. And then it's really funny though, because like some of the lyrics that they quoted as being like, this is immature, I think are so funny and cool and probably unintentionally funny, reading them out of context. And what was it? Your arms are like towers towering over me. And I was like, yeah, that's like peak songwriting. That's awesome.
Well, I think the songwriting is definitely more direct. I think at this point in the emo history, in the progression of emo music, we are living in a post Chris Connolly lyrical world. Like, gone are the days of metaphors.
Like, you're
and,
just saying shit.
Like, these are just so direct and down the pipe. And that's cool. I think it's interesting. Like, I think that's part of the innovation of Paramore. She was just like, no, this is what I'm going to say, and I'm going to say it, and I'm not going to dance around it or like try to be clever. And I'm just going to speak from my heart and my experience and like get that across.
I think, look, the ones that they quoted, I was like out of context. I was like, that's awesome to say the same thing. And I liked it. But it just goes to show, and I don't want to fucking start off our fucking podcast with me yelling about critics anymore. Also, it's so fucking like, I never go on socials unless we do post the fucking podcast clips. And since before Christmas, people are like still continuing to like yell about gauges.
I know that clip really took off.
Like, people really got hit it, like
we somehow hit the right audience. The gauge community, they are enraged.
They are fucking pissed. They're like, you're just disgusting. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, like, I was like, no, it's just like they do smell. Like, it doesn't matter how clean you are. I'm not saying you guys are gross and disgusting. You probably are, but I'm not saying everybody is. It's like
everybody's asshole.
It's like when you put a fucking Band-Aid on.
Yeah.
And you leave it on for a couple days, like, it doesn't matter how fucking gross you are. It is going to have the thing. It's just the way the world works. And they're like, actually, you're just disgusting. And I'm like, maybe true. Like, you are right. Like, that's true. But at the same time, I knew people who were not disgusting who said the same thing. So, and I also, like, I don't know, was it framed like I was talking shit about it? Because like no,
you were like admitting like, well, I kind of was talking shit. I was like, that's weird. Why did everybody do that? But everybody's just like, yeah, bro, like, yours only stink because you're disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, everybody. I'm like, if somebody comments, I don't know if you saw, I commented like one thing on our, because I opened it up and I like got like, it was the notification where somebody said like something nice, and I was just like, oh, thanks. Oh, yeah. Like, I just responded to the one.
It was
nice
one of
thing.
our reps though that commented.
Yeah, I know. I was just like, thanks for, like, I saw something positive and I was like, thank
you. This is the first nice thing anybody's ever said about me on our podcast. Speaking of, guys, we do have a phone number down below here. If you want to call and leave us a voicemail.
And I think that like, be like Mary Bonnie. You guys, like, that was the best. That was like the best. We won't listen to them before.
Yeah, we won't listen.
Listen to them before we air them. Another thing about Paramore, the lyrics are, there's a lot of like references to songs that didn't exist yet. Like, she is very thematic in the para universe, right? Like, there's a lyric, she kept saying like pressure, and pressure, and like on like one of these lyrics, and I was like, they write this after or before? And that was like an album or two later where that song was really big. So it's like, I think she's
got her themes.
She ties things together in a nice conspiracy theory bow. Like, you could Charlie Kelly all of this shit together and be like, she said that there, and that leads to this, and this is because of this, and that is that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and
that's
like,
cool.
I do think it's cool.
I like when writers do that.
Yeah, me too.
Like recurring things.
Yeah, there was a lot of shit about Paramore that I really do like. It was just like, it didn't hit me in the way that it like hit a lot of other people. And now going back and listening to it, I really like it, and I am glad I get to do this stuff with like a different lens.
I'm kind of a late Paramore fan. I'm kind of like you. Like, I didn't really get into Paramore until After Laughter, which came out in like 2016.
Yeah, you really liked that album.
Loved
yeah,
that
you
album.
really
And
liked that album.
Yeah, and then like all the other, you know, the bigger hits and stuff. Like I've got into it through Emo Night. Like I think they're awesome, and I don't know why I didn't listen to them.
I know why I didn't.
Because she was a girl.
Obviously, dude, girls can't be in bands.
Yeah.
But it was just like, I think that I probably at that time, you know, also being young, I probably was like, oh, before the term industry plan existed, I probably was in the mindset of that and wanted to listen to shit that she was listening to and inspired by. And so I was wrong, you know what I mean? But we're also young, and that's like, those are the things that we do. And we learn from it and grow and become adults and be like, yeah, you know, I'm happy to admit to be like, I didn't want to listen to it because it was popular. And I wish I did. Like, I wish I was, you know, I wish I could go back. I wish I knew everything about this album and their band. And so I could sit here and be like, I don't know what the name of this song is called, but I really enjoyed listening to this album, and it makes me want to go and do more deep diving. it's hard for me to keep up with the amount of this person's in and out and this stuff like that, at least on this album. But I'm also like not really super interested in that.
Sure. So let's keep it music based. What are your standout tracks from this album?
Well, I can tell you that I actually do kind of want to like shout out David Bendeth a little bit. And there's an it's not, the thing is it's not like a crazy thing, but I think he had the foresight also, because at this time there was so much new technology in music production. And so a lot of people were like using these like such new sounds and new ways of doing things and experimenting, and these different, you know, these like tones where we see in like metalcore and all those things we've never heard before with like 808s and
sure,
in songs. And he really insisted on using like vintage stuff, you know, and it's not like, that's not a crazy thing to hear now, especially. Like people are like, we want to use a vintage jam. It's
right.
not.
But at the time, this was like when Pro Tools was like just becoming a thing, and people were just trying to use technology, not necessarily to make the album better. I see what you're saying.
And I think that so it was like it was a thought out creative choice that I think was probably a little bit against the grain at that time.
Yeah.
Even though now it doesn't sound like a crazy thing, right? It's just like, you know. And then, you know, there are also like, I tried to look up I did want to know some stuff about like you know, now I'm like learning about music a little bit. And so I wanted to look up some of the things about this album that were, you know, maybe that we wouldn't necessarily hear if we weren't looking for it. And there are a lot of vocals on here that you can't hear, like unless they're isolated or you're listening in like certain headphones, especially on Crush. And like and I don't know if that was intentional. Like, I don't know if that's intentional or if it made it like thinner, or it was just like she wanted to add more vocals. Or
when you got a tool like Hayley's vocals, you got to use it, right?
Yeah, I guess just like put everything in there. And I'm sure that, you know, even if we can't hear it with our, you know, like our like ear in it.
Yeah, it still adds to it.
It probably makes a difference in some way, shape, or form in this album. So I do think that, I really think he was cool. He also what did he do? Like Less Than Jake and shit.
He's done a lot of good.
It was odd. I listened to Less Than Jake after I did a little bit of research on him, and I was like, Less Than Jake.
He's the guy that I think Silverstein was going to work with. Remember?
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Oh, you don't know who Taking Back Sunday is?"
Yeah.
But boy, did David Bendeth learn about emo and put his mark on it.
Yeah, he certainly did. I really liked the choices that he made in this album. But besides the singles, which I do think, like I do think that those are the best songs on the album. Like,
once again, good choices by Fueled by Ramen, John Janik, Johnny Minardi. Good job, guys.
Like, I do think that they are, as a whole, right? Like, I do.
Misery Business, that's what you get. Crush, crush,
I
crush.
think that those are
the right
those
choices.
are the strongest songs on the album. But Brian from Emo Social Club said that he didn't like the Born for This and Fences, and he was like, you know, at the time, like, yes, that it was like did have a Panic sound, like with that, like, I forgot, was it called was it called Caraba?
What are you
It's
talking about?
It's like a style of music. It's like what Panic at the Disco. Cabaret. Yeah, Chris Cabaret. And I don't think it's goofy, and I think it's cool. Like, I think that's, I don't know. I liked that song. I think that, and I'm right. You know?
I like listening to this album all the way through. I think it's sequenced really well. Like, the order of the songs is great. It's a pleasurable listen from start to finish.
I think music should do that again. I think we should go. There should be a lot more cabaret in like this style of music, because there was like a very distinct time in this scene.
You think about like
My Chem did it a lot too.
The best vocalists in this scene: Patrick Stump, Brendan Urie, Hayley Williams. They all have that like theatrical, operatic, crazy voice. The guys who got really, really good pipes. And cabaret is, you know, it's fun, I think, to integrate that style when you can do it right.
Yeah, and I think that like the bands that did do it right are the songs that we know, like the ones you just said, because it was done in a conscious way to make the album more theatrical. Like, I think that there's a reason for it, and I think that some of these bands should start doing full cabaret albums. I think that that's awesome. There also was a track called Riot, but it was never released. There was like a title track, Riot, but it was never released, I don't think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I heard that David and Hayley got into a fight about calling the album Riot.
Why?
He just didn't understand why you would call it Riot. And she was like, no, that's what it is. And he was like, that's a stupid name.
I like, why?
I don't know. This episode is sponsored by Urban Decay Cosmetics, which is pretty perfect considering that Hayley had some pretty cool makeup for this album. Remember her eyeliner for the Crush 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 music video, Morgan?
Yeah, I do. Exactly.
Ever since then, she's always been pretty out there with her makeup and inspiring others to be adventurous with their look. If you're ever wanting to recreate one of her iconic looks for emo night, don't forget to use Urban Decay's 24/7 waterproof eye pencils and all-nighter setting sprays so it stays put. I bet that's what they used on you when you had your clown makeup at emo night day, because you were set in there.
I could not get that shit off. Hey, also, like, shout out to the gals. Like,
It says, I know all the girls on the emo night team used this stuff for their clown makeup. All the girls, Morgan used it on his clown makeup at emo night day, and it looked awesome the whole day.
Well, it also looked awesome for the next like 4 days because I couldn't get it fucking off. If you actually wanted to stay on, it stays on. And I've never taken makeup off. So I leave emo night day and I'm in insane clothes. I go to a CVS at like 2 a.m.
Looking like a hobo clown.
Looking like a hobo clown. And I have to legitimately walk in and go, I know how I look. Like, I'm not here to like Joker everybody. I don't know how to get this off. Like, I don't know how to get this off. Can somebody tell me where to go? And nobody knew how to go. So I had to call some of my drag queen friends, and they were like, then they started arguing about like fucking what makeup to take, like what thing to take off. And I eventually got it, but they were like, they did say something really important to me that I never realized about makeup. They were like, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I was like, what could that possibly mean? And when I started taking it off, I was like, this is getting way worse. Yeah. Like, it was just like so fucked. So it was on me for like several days.
Well, thank you, Urban Decay, for sponsoring this episode of CD Burners. Into some of the liner notes here. We talked about it. Fueled by Ramen. produced by David Bendeth. He did Bring Me the Horizon, Of Mice and Men, Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, 4 Year Strong, All Time Low. 60% of good albums from the 2010s. I guess Neil Averon and Howard Benson were also in consideration to produce this record, but Bendeth got it.
Bendeth like Beckham.
Bendeth like Beckham. The other interesting liner notes, our friend Mary Bonney has a backing vocal credit. And you know who else has a backing vocal credit? Steven from Steven's Untitled Rock Show on Fuse.
Really? What is he doing on
I
it?
guess he has a gang vocal credit. The band invited the show, Steven's Untitled Rock Show, to come hang out in the studio. And they had him bust out some gang vocals on That's What You Get.
That's cool.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. Gang vocals were like, it was something that I don't think if you never were in a band or didn't, you weren't like involved.
It was like the ultimate bragging right. Like Mary Bonney said, to be like, oh yeah, I did gang vocals.
It really was like not a rite of passage, and like a bragging right is a really great thing, because it's like I did gang vocals, which you can automatically be like, yeah, I was in the studio.
Right.
People will be like, they were in the studio with them.
He's close enough to the circle that he's in there.
Yeah, it's like the easiest humble brag you could ever do.
Unprompted, I'm sitting at the Shooting Star Saloon with Cheryl and talking about, what podcasts we're doing, what albums we're doing this week. And I mentioned Riot. And she's like, oh, they had a contest to win, to be able to sing backing vocals. I was like, oh yeah, I know all about that. And she's like, yeah, I remember I watched all the videos, and it was kind of like talent show-esque. Like a lot of people were really, really good at singing. She was like, I remember the winner. I remember Mary's video. It was so fun. And that's why she won. Like, she wasn't the best singer, but the video that she made was so fun that I was happy that she won.
Did you look it up? What is it?
No, I haven't seen it. I don't know if it's still online, but let's see if we can find it.
I ask Cheryl about all the every album, and she usually gives me one really good fact about every album.
Really?
Yeah, one really good. Well, she works at MTV and knows all the all those people. She's always like, I'm on the red carpet with this person, and I'm like, gun to my head, I could not tell you who that fucking person is. So she knows all of this shit. And
here it is, Mary Bonney's Paramore contest entry. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Hi everyone,
can we put it on the
Paramore.
screen?
My name is Mary. I'm 19 and I'm from right outside of Washington, D.C. And I love you guys. And I love to sing. So hopefully that's a sign. I'm going to be singing Whoa, and I'm going to be trying to recruit some Paramore fans in this house. I hope you like it. Here we go. I've hoped for change and it gets better every day. I've hoped for change, but still I feel the same. There's something wrong, 'cause everybody knows we can't do this on our own. Come on. And we've got everybody singing, whoa, 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 whoa. And we've got everybody singing, whoa, 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 whoa. Go upstairs.
Go upstairs.
Okay. We're doing fine, and it gets better every time. We're doing fine, but I'll let you decide. There's something wrong, 'cause everybody knows that we can't do this on our own. And we've got everybody singing, whoa,
Whoa.
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 And we've got everybody singing, whoa,
Whoa.
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 And I'll confess that I can be a little selfish. I can. And I'll admit, I don't want you to help me through this. I don't want to start over. We got everybody singing. Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
Whoa.
And we've got everybody singing. Whoa.
Whoa.
I can be a little selfish. I can. And I'll admit, I
The
don't
Beanie
want you
Babies?
to help me through
It's like there's like
this.
it's like a
And
perfect
I don't
video.
want to start over again.
Good job,
So that's my
Mary.
video.
Should go
And
down
I
and
really,
like
really hope you guys like it, and I really hope I get to see you soon. See ya.
it's like a really, really, really
I'd pick Mary.
it's so endearing. And also just the way that their house was in, like
2007?
It's just so awesome.
It's great. That's
It's-
cool that she still has it up.
How many views does it have?
Oh man, I don't know. I closed
All
it.
right, whatever. That was really great. Good job, Mary. If you fucking are listening to this, I think that was awesome, and I think that was really, really cute and fun and cool. And what a cool thing for Paramore to do.
All right. I want to wrap this up. I have a good quote from Hayley Williams herself. She has a love-hate relationship with this album. As we talked about earlier, they at one point stopped playing Misery Business because they were getting backlash for it being too misogynistic. This album just really shifted the paradigm of the scene, and it's obviously Paramore's breakout. But yeah, she has an interesting relationship with it. And she said, "What I take from that season of life is that we all have this one golden summer, which Riot truly felt like. We can try and mine out of it forever, or we can appreciate it for what it was and carry on. We have to find other summers. Those other definitive seasons in our lives that make us feel like we're exactly where we're supposed to be. If you're always turning around facing the direction you came from, how can you appreciate where you're standing today? You have to give yourself a chance."
Yeah, she's absolutely right. Good job. I think I like the fact that they came back and started playing it again. It shows growth as people
Yeah.
to be like, yeah, dude, that's where I was. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's like a fine thing to be
we've done a lot of these episodes now, and this is just a common theme, and it's hard to look back. I would be so embarrassed to look back on anything I wrote in my diary when I was 14.
I'm embarrassed about stuff I wrote last week.
Yeah. So
I'm embarrassed about stuff I said on the podcast a month ago.
Totally. Neither of us can even listen to the podcast
I know.
without cringing.
I accept the request and get it off of my feed as quick as possible.
Oh, Joni wrote down Hayley's mom, Christy Williams, was one of her teachers in college. I don't have much to say about it, but she taught a class that was basically mental health in the music industry, and it gave me a deeper appreciation of Paramore's songwriting.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff. We did talk a lot about. This is album related, but there was definitely a bunch of really hardships that her and the band went through, and it's nice to see where they're at, where they came from, how they navigated this whole thing, given a lot of the circumstances. So, that's cool. That's really sweet. Her mom teaches that.
All right, guys, that is it for this episode on Paramore Riot. Thank you for listening to CD Burners. If you live anywhere in the world, check out emonight.com, find a party near you, come hang out with us and other like-minded individuals who love this kind of music, and make sure you hit subscribe and give us a 5-star review on iTunes or the Apple Podcast Store or Spotify, wherever you're listening to this. Please make sure you just give us a little bit of love. It helps. We've been doing this podcast for almost a year. Coming up here.
It's really fun. And I like it. If you guys do hit whatever, all that shit, I'm sure if it gets bigger, we'll probably be able to get awesome guests. If they
We've had some awesome ones.
I feel like we could, if they're oh, this is a thing, they get it. I'm sure we'll be able to, and then I'll ask them whatever questions you want me to ask them. I don't care.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye.